So I'm not surprised. And when you talk about Tesla and you think about the etheric energy, here's a guy who literally found out how to harness just the energy in the atmosphere. And we spoke yesterday to Dr. Wai-Ping Yu. I did a deep dive interview with him yesterday about electricity as an effect. He's like, people don't understand that electricity is not like a thing that you pull from the atmosphere. It is literally an effect. When you rub magnets together, it creates electricity. Yeah. When you're creating this friction, it can create electricity. So he's like, it's so archaic if you think about it. But imagine like the power of magnetism, the power of plasma, the power of electromagnetism for, gravitic propulsion technology and all of these things that we know we have. We know these guys have this technology, but they're not letting us see it. So
guys, thank you so much for joining me. John Soto, this is SotoCast. We're going to take a look at, this is a Redacted, a great show. If you don't know, check it out. They're going to be interviewing Trish Goldman here, and he is going to be talking about something similar to the latest assassination that happened at Brown, the shootings in Brown and MIT. He doesn't get into the shootings in Brown, but there was a murder at MIT. He's going to talk about that and talk about what they think is going on here.
We have to still pay gas bills. We still have to fill up a gas tank, stop at Costco and get gas for cheaper because it's a little bit cheaper there. We pay electricity bills. It's so infuriating.
Well, again, anyone who's made a discovery like this, and many have made a discovery about free energy, he's not the first, he won't be the last, but they all sort of end up in the same dire circumstances. But those who have cures for cancer and other illnesses, nobody wants a cure. What the world of big business wants, apparently, is us to continue to be unwell, because unwell equates to profitable. Right. We need pharmaceuticals. And this is just another example of that, and seems to be flying under the radar. It's not getting a lot of attention. Sure, it's on the news wires, but why he may have been murdered is not something you see in the mainstream media.
Well, and they still don't know who his killer is. The manhunt continues to try to find this individual.
So at this point, they know who the killer is. It is the same person that murdered the two individuals at Brown University in a mass shooting, and then subsequently was found that he shot himself to death inside of a storage unit, not too far away from the incident location. So there is a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, it is a wild ride. I just posted another video where Tim Dillon breaks it down. If you want to check that out, I'll link that up after this. But yeah, I just want you to listen to these guys because they're going to get into a little bit more, I believe, of the professor.
The manhunt continues to try to find the killer in the Brown University shootings as well. So I guess we'll have to wait and see who they find. I'm sure some sort of patsy will be put forth if they ever do find anybody for New News murder. It's really tragic and sad. One other story I wanted to get your take on, though, is about this story out of Greece. And I found this fascinating as we've been looking, of course, at the history of the pyramids and all the recent discoveries over the past year beneath the pyramids, these large chambers and so forth. Well, comes this story out of Greece, this unbelievable find, an intact construction of a wall that is now 17,000 years older than the pyramids. Like, if you wrap your head around how long it takes to just pass a year, to think 17,000 years older than the pyramids, with in many ways like advanced technology, that this wall could actually provide heat, which is crazy to me. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this. I just found this discovery to be fascinating.
Well, it is fascinating, and it's a part of Greece, central Greece, just a little bit to the north central. And it's famous, this cave is, the Theopetra Cave, for all sorts of discoveries, ancient Stone Age tools, things that nobody really wants to talk about, such as footprints of a child that conventional archaeology has dated to 135,000 years old. But that's too old for people to want to talk about or to consider, because it just wreaks havoc on what conventional archaeology has created. And here we have this limestone wall created to keep the inhabitants warm from the wintry conditions. And it dates to 17,000 years older than the Great Pyramid or Stonehenge. And what I find really interesting about that is a discovery like this will make the news because it's close to the date of something that by consensus everyone agrees on. one example of a really old archaeological site that everyone agrees is the true age is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dating to about 9, 10, 11,000 years old. It's very unusual that conventional archaeologists agree on that. The site in Greece kind of sets the bar back further with the technology that this limestone wall could provide those who made it, thus showing some really advanced technique. But I get kind of upset when people talk about the pyramids being 5,000 years old or Stonehenge being 5,000 years old. We really don't know. What we do know is that there's conventional archaeologists, really well schooled individuals who have found archaeological sites, either based upon the dating or the level in the ground, that go back 30,000, 70,000, 150, 500,000 years old.
I mean, in the end, the fact we don't know anything. If that's one thing that people can end up wrapping their heads around, is what little we do know. I was actually looking at the I forget who does it. He's a very, very famous podcaster, like pseudo archaeologist kind of guy, and he was doing these he was looking at these Peruvian megalithic structures where, I mean, listen, I do very, very rudimentary woodworking. Like I can make a box. I can do some very simple joinery. I have the tools to do all these things like that. And so these megalithic structures in Peru, I mean, the rock looks essentially like it's been melted blocks on top of blocks. That's kind of what the appearance that it gives to me. It doesn't seem like you could shape these things, even with current tech, or that you would want to shape them, right? Like the shape, to me, when you're looking at these things, is has to be a product of the construction. Otherwise, why would you do it? But yet there is just so much that we have no idea what the hell's going on. I mean, the fact that there was probably civilizations way earlier than we would even imagine of, that were probably pretty technologically advanced. Like, how many times has this happened? How many times how many times 10,000, 100,000 years ago, was there somebody sitting in front of a camera doing a podcast? I don't know. But it just seems like their technology for when it comes to building, at least the stuff that survived, because like, look at this, where I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in a 4-bedroom house, all made out of wood, that in 10,000 years, this thing would totally not exist. I mean, every single scrap of where I'm standing right here, down to the bones, would be completely gone. So, I mean, megalithic structures, they make it. So that's how we know that, just because they made it. But the day-to-day tools, the stuff like that's not going to survive, especially if it's constructed in the way that we construct things. As we progress in our construction, things become way more disposable, way less valuable, and we don't care as much. So if that's the natural progression of humans and things, then what are we left to believe? We're left to believe that everything that they're going to produce is going to stand the test of time? Absolutely not. They're going to go through usually the same progression that everyone else goes through.
And these people lose their jobs. You're not allowed to talk about anything that's so substantially different than the conventional narrative. And that's one of the reasons
Graham Hancock got so slammed for it. He's gotten ridiculed for, because I guess archaeologists are like, well, now you're basically upending all of my schooling and all of my work by telling me that there's something tens of thousands of years older than what I say.
Yeah, and poor Graham is not really going to great lengths with his theory. All he's saying is that human civilization existed for the end of the last ice age, 10,500 BC. The age of the Sphinx has been dated to be twice as old as the conventional dating of the pyramids. So imagine what happens when you go much further than what Graham Hancock has done. You're absolutely targeted. I mean, there is famously a doctor in Peru who discovered a farmer who had found precious stones, slabs of stone with really valuable precious stones embedded in them. They had pictures of humans and dinosaurs. And they're called the Inca stones. And everyone's like, well, that's ridiculous. But these stones are really, really valuable. So how could the farmer have, faked this? Now, the problem with discoveries like that, which if true, would just completely reset human perspective as to how old civilization is. In this particular case, the poor farmer saw the wealthy doctor paying good money for these stones, so he forged some other ones. And then the whole thing was thrown out with the bathwater, as it were. But I think in time, we'll find that things just keep getting older and older. And I'd like to think that there will be a discovery that kind of propels conventional archaeology to admit that civilization is much older than they've given it credit for.
Well, I think if we keep finding high-tech walls that are 17,000 years older than the pyramids, it could keep people warm by heating them. I mean, it's crazy to think about. I mean, think about people right now. We don't even have heated walls. For the most part, we've got insulation, right? But it's just kind of crazy. Andrew, I could talk about this all night, as I'm sure my audience knows, but I want to be respectful of your time there in the UK right now because it's late. So thank you for staying up with us and talking about it. We're going to keep an eye, though, on this story about Nunu, the MIT professor who was assassinated, and following this story. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, Andrew. Where can people watch your show and learn more?
Yeah, sorry about the sidetrack. It was kind of nice though. But just to touch on both topics, yes, the MIT professor thing is a really wild case because as I may have pointed out in the previous video, the person that assassinated him supposedly was a former colleague of his, or a student while he was a student, and there's a lot of just weirdness surrounding this. So take a look at that. Do a little bit of a deep dive. I'm going to do a little bit of deep dive myself. And then I now have to check out this wall in Greece that is super old and was used for heating. So we'll check all that stuff out. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk on the X if you want to follow me on X. If you are a subscriber, thanks to all the new subscribers. I really appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of new ones. If you're subscribed, hit the like, hit the share. If you're not subscribed, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you again on the next video. Take care.